Hi, my name is Khari Hutchings, and I am currently a student at UCLA Anderson who was able to successfully get through the MBA application with the help of TTP. A little bit about my educational background and my journey. I went to the University of North Carolina for my undergrad, graduated with a degree in business, and started my career out as a management consultant. So I was at PwC for about 4 years doing consulting in New York City, worked primarily on the healthcare sector, and then eventually pivoted from consulting and actually worked as a professional poker player for the past 2 years or so before coming to business school. And in terms of why I wanted to make that pivot to business school, as great as a journey as it was playing poker professionally, I just knew it was something that I didn't want to do long term, and I wanted to kind of pivot back into the working world in a way, and I thought the MBA was the perfect way to do that, and so that's kind of why I elected to do that. And so as someone who made that decision a little bit later in the cycle, I was scrambling to find a way to get all the MBA application stuff together in such a short period of time. And that's where TTP was really useful in terms of creating like a structure around how to study for the GMAT, how to best approach it, and not just helping provide tools in terms of how best to study for the different sections, but also tips and tricks about how best to attack the GMAT in general, which I think, as someone who, like I mentioned, was doing it a lot last minute, really made it easier to handle as a whole. And so I was able to get a 30-point bump in my GMAT score from, I think, like 625, my initial one, to 655 that I ended up submitting to schools, which was actually a pretty significant improvement and allowed me to not only get into the top schools I was targeting, but to receive scholarship funding as well. And so the resources that TTP provided were instrumental in allowing me to improve and continue to go on my MBA journey. And in terms of studying, I initially tackled the GMAT myself. I took it in December without a lot of prep and didn't do well initially, and was kind of unsure how best to improve. And so I did a lot of research online in terms of the different sites that were offered and the different ways to study, even maybe if I want to take the GRE or the GMAT. I kept coming across the name TTP as something that people recommended, both as being relatively affordable and as something that would really make a strong impact in terms of how ready someone felt to take the test and then the results as well. And so to me, it just seemed like a pretty easy decision. And then the structure kind of put it over the top in terms of the virtual classes, but that were live with an instructor, so you were able to have that element of flexibility and kind of work around your scheduling, but also get that personalized tutoring that came with having that instructor. And my instructor that I worked with, Ceilidh, was so helpful in making sure I was prepared. She was willing to go through some of my practice tests, like identify common mistakes I was making. She was willing to answer all these questions for me that I was emailing her about different ways to tackle this problem and, what should I do when this comes up, and really was just very supportive of me throughout my journey, which makes a difference not only in academic support focused on how to best improve, but like reaching out and just following up throughout the cycle, making sure that things were going well with the application. I think it just really made a huge overall impact in my ability to take the test and then get into business school. And so I signed up with the TTP class in January. It was about 3 months and met twice a week, which I thought was a really nice structure because it allowed a good amount of time to meet with the instructor, the teacher, and then also, because it was twice a week, still gave it a good amount of time to get that homework done between class. And so I spent maybe 10 to 15 or so hours a week, both in class, meeting and reviewing the material, as well as doing the work in my own time to get through it. And then one thing that I really enjoyed as well about the way it was structured was that Kaylee also did a good job of highlighting, like, here's the core things that you should make sure you do when you're studying. She also highlighted the basics as well, and also some things that you could review to go a little bit above and beyond, so that it wasn't like the same syllabus for everyone. You were kind of able to customize it, whether or not you were a little bit more comfortable with certain material, or maybe you knew another area that you had a little bit more room to improve. And so that like customization element really allowed each person to make the journey their own, and I think really contributed to all the results that we were able to see. So closing, a little bit of tips. Obviously, I'd recommend TTP to anyone who is trying to find a good way to structure their approach to the GMAT. I would say block out time, not just telling yourself, oh, I want to study 10 or 15 hours a week. One thing that I did that was really helpful was create a study tracker. So I would log all of the hours I actually studied. So if I did 45 minutes or if I did 2 hours, logging it to make sure I was actually getting the amount of hours I wanted to. So just holding yourself accountable in that way. I'd say take plenty of practice tests is another tip I'd say. I know they recommend you wait till the end, which I found very helpful because you had more of the baseline kind of under your belt. But taking those practice tests a number of times, especially in environments that you're maybe not super comfortable with, like a library or something, kind of help mimic the actual test. Then lastly, I'd say just give yourself a little bit of grace. It's a tough process. The test itself is very difficult, especially because it gets more difficult as you do better. And so it's always going to push you to kind of the point where you're unsure of what to do. So know that like struggling with the test is normal, and give yourself a little bit of leeway if there's maybe times you're studying less or you're struggling to improve at a certain point. Just take a breath and realize that it's all going to be okay. But yeah, so overall, I am not only very satisfied with my results in terms of the GMAT, but also very satisfied with the support that TTP was able to offer and how much they helped me along my journey. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I'm sure you'll do great.